Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about what is the difference between IELTS exam and the exam given with CELPIP, and which one should we go for, what are the challenges of each exam, and which one will be better in different scenarios. Okay, so let's begin. So first of all, I'm assuming that you're already familiar with what IELTS exam is and what is CELPIP, so I'm not going to explain that. But you can check the information out on internet. So I'm going to keep the basic information that you can get from internet out of this video. This will specifically be for more of an experience when it comes to giving these exams, because I have given both exams, IELTS as well as CELPIP, and I'm going to share my experiences with you as to what were the challenges and which one I feel is better. Okay, so when it comes to giving IELTS exam, you can give it from IDP if you're in India, or if you are abroad, then you can choose your own source for giving this exam. Again, for CELPIP, you can go to the CELPIP website and you can go ahead and give the exam. You can go to find a test date, and currently in India it is not available in all the states, and so one of the difference between the two is that it has limited availability. So if you check India, even it's not available in all the countries, you can see region is only these. I'm not going to read them out to you, but it's understood. You can read from here. Let's say I have given it from Maharashtra and I've given it from Mumbai. I had to travel to Mumbai because I live in a different city altogether. And if you, besides that, IELTS has more availability in terms of the place where you can give the exam, it also comes down to the cost. So if I go ahead and search Mumbai, and remember that you have to select general in case if you are giving it for immigration purposes to Canada. So if I click on it, you can see that it says 10,845 rupees, and it's available at Ghatkopar West, and then it's also in Mumbai Central. So I gave it at this World Assessment Mumbai. I think I gave it last month on the 10th. Yeah, it was 10th of the last month. Yep. So you can give it there. Compared to the cost of IDP, if I go to computer deliverable test, and let's say I select general and I select Mumbai. So the cost of IELTS is around 14,000. So you can see 14,700, and this includes tax, by the way. What I didn't like about CELPIP is that they do tell you that it's 10,845, but when you actually start paying it, they put a lot of additional taxes on top. To me, I feel that you should be open and honest and sharing what the total cost would be rather than giving it to me at the time of checkout. It's not good, right? All right, so if you ask me what will be the total cost, it should come around 12,000 to 12,500 something. I don't remember the exact amount, but that was the amount that I went for. And apart from this, they suggest you to buy the CELPIP courses. There are not enough CELPIP courses available online. Of course, they have their own channel, YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and if you search CELPIP, they have a channel, and this is pretty extensive when it comes to giving information. So this lady is really, really good. In fact, I learned a lot from her. So you probably don't need a lot of resources. The resources will be available online and you can learn from it. But they give you an option to purchase a course. Course is pretty expensive, really expensive. I think it cost me around 6,000 to 8,000 rupees for the course. I think I bought a couple of courses at the time of checkout, and you get some discount also at the time of checkout. But in my opinion, it's not really worth. Most of those courses are just going to show you what the pattern of the exam is, and you don't need to pay much for knowing the pattern of the exam. You can directly come over here. There's a link on the website, which I'll share with you as well. And you can give the tests over here. This is like a sample test, and then you'll be able to give the exam and find out what the pattern is rather than having to pay for the courses. It's not really worth paying for those courses, to be honest, in my opinion at least. If you want to, you can. Okay, so when it comes down to cost, I would say CELPIP wins here, okay, because it's cheaper compared to IELTS, even though they put tax later on. Next is we discussed about the availability. So IELTS has more centers for giving the test compared to CELPIP. CELPIP only has a few. Then the third point would be CELPIP is beneficial only if you're going for immigration purposes. However, if you are going as a student, then you cannot give CELPIP. It's not going to work. You have to give IELTS, and that will be IELTS academic and not general. All right. So mainly for people who want to go for immigration and not as student, I feel that they can compare between IELTS and CELPIP. Okay. Now let's come down to the difficulty level of each exam, because I'm sure that's something that you all are interested in, right? That which one is easier? Now, before talking about my experience, I would like to share that many people say that they have given IELTS many a times and they were not able to get the desired score. But when they gave CELPIP, they were able to achieve what they were looking for, right? I would say to some extent it is true, but it is only true for the people who have already given IELTS exam many times. The reason they found CELPIP easier is number one, that because they have given IELTS so many times, their listening skills and other skills have improved so much that they find CELPIP easier, okay? But someone who's starting new, for them, CELPIP may be equally difficult when compared to IELTS, right? And at the same time, IELTS and CELPIP have slightly different pattern when it comes to assessing your knowledge. CELPIP mainly focuses on whether you are able to communicate with people, so that when you go in Canada, whether you'll be able to understand the directions, whether you'll be able to talk to people, comprehend, read maps, etc. While IELTS is more of a generic one that can be used throughout the world, wherever it's applicable. So in that regards, the language of the questions that are being asked to you, I would say vocabulary, language, all of that are slightly simpler as compared to IELTS. All right. So that is one benefit. Second is that it depends on what type of question. So, for example, if you're already given IELTS many times and you are struggling, right? It really depends on which questions you are struggling on. That will decide whether CELPIP will be a better option or not. For example, if you are struggling on multiple choice questions on IELTS listening or maybe IELTS reading, I wouldn't say that CELPIP will be a good choice for you. But the reason for this is because I'm going to show you in a moment that I would say all the questions that you're going to get for reading, for listening, they are going to be multiple choice. So if somebody is struggling on the multiple choice, you can't expect him to gain higher score in CELPIP, because CELPIP is all about multiple choice. If he gives IELTS, then at least he or she will be able to score well on the non-MCQs, right? So let me give you a quick example. So let's start with the IELTS. So this is your IELTS listening, and as you can see that the first section is fill in the blanks. So the audio is played, and while the audio is being played, you need to answer these questions. However, the difference that comes here is if I click on listening, the audio here is played first, okay? So let me go to next.
Unfortunately, I missed the concert last night.
Right. This is just a test one, okay? It's not going to happen that, so this is just a question over here on the left that is going to be played once. You won't have options to rewind or stop, etc. at the time of exam, okay? So the questions will be spoken as an audio, and then you have to select, you have to choose between the answers, okay? So how it works is, let's go with this one and let me show you what I mean. So if you click on next, it's going to give you
problem solving. You will hear a conversation in 3 sections. You will hear each section only once.
Okay, so it'll give you the instructions. For example, in this case, is going to say that there'll be a conversation between man and woman. Usually there are 2 people, and then the conversation will be played. So if you click next,
this is the last stop.
You can see that it goes on for about 40 seconds. I've stopped it, but it's going to be played. Once the conversation has been played, then automatically it's going to go to the next, okay? And then the question will be asked in the audio. And once the question is asked, you have to answer it in that period of time. So you can see there's a timer clicking. So unlike IELTS, where you can switch between different sections, you cannot do that here in CELPIP. So for CELPIP, you just have those 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever that time is, and you have to select it. And then if you don't select it, it's going to move to the next screen and you cannot come back. So that is one, I would say, drawback of CELPIP, that you cannot go back, and there's always a timer running. So you are in that extreme pressure at that point. So you give the answer and then you go back to the next question. So same way, another question would come, and then it'll keep going. Now, initially in the first section, the audio is about 40 seconds, but as you move to the further sections, then it's going to get longer. So for after 40, it becomes 1 minute, then 1.5 in the next section, and then it becomes 2 minutes, etc. So I'm not going to take you through the entire test. I just wanted to show you what the feel of it is, to how it looks like. You can definitely go into that free link and give the test yourself and see how that goes. But to be honest, how it works is that the audio is played, and after the audio is played, it moves to this questionnaire, and then you are asked around 3 to 4 questions or 6 questions sometimes, and you have to answer these questions. That's what happens in listening test. Okay, for the reading, so I'll come back to the reading in a moment. So coming back to the IELTS, as you can see in the IELTS, the audio is playing and you have to answer at the same time, right? You don't have that option of going to next. Like the screen doesn't automatically go to the next. You have to click next. Okay, so that's your IELTS. You don't have any maps in CELPIP. So you don't have any maps options. You do have multiple choice though. And another major difference, I would say, between CELPIP and IELTS is that CELPIP is going to be computer-based only, right? You cannot give paper-based ones. And for many people who have been giving IELTS for a long time and they have been choosing the paper-based, they may not be comfortable with the computer-based initially. So if you are someone who really want to try out CELPIP, it's worth the shot. But I would suggest that do a lot of practice online. Although there are not enough practice materials available online for CELPIP, unless you purchase their course. So if you purchase their course, which I said I paid around close to 8,000, then you're going to get practice material besides the guides, besides the lessons. Okay, so you don't have this flow chart. You don't have this fill in the blanks. So all the questions you're going to get are going to be multiple choice, right? They also have a video that they play. So in one of the sections towards the end, I think it's in the second last section, they are going to play a video for 2 to 3 minutes. You need to listen and you need to watch the video. There'll usually be around 2 to 3 people. In fact, 3 people, yeah. There are always around 3 people. And there'll be a conversation on some kind of issue. They are discussing about work or about problem in their community or home or whatever. Mostly it's related to work. And then based on that, based on the conversation they had, you need to answer the questions in multiple choice. Okay, I think the last section is about a general lecture or a report, a news report, something like that. And then you have to answer multiple choice questions. Okay, so coming back to the reading part, let's go back.
Listening.
Okay, so let's take a look at the reading. So that's your reading one. And let's go next. I'm going to go next. Yep. So you can see on the left hand side you have the questions, on the right hand side you have fill in the blanks, right? And you have to choose between the fill in the blanks. I think the first passage is about the letter that you need to give. The second one is yeah, so this is about some diagram that you see, and you have to answer questions based on that. There's usually a response, and then there's a letter, and then there's a response, right? Then you have another question. So again, this is a passage for information, and this is going to be the passage selection, like which passage do you think this belongs to, okay? And if you compare that with the reading of IELTS, so here also you have the passage selection, but in the, yeah, you have to select which passage this statement belongs to, right? And you have true, false, not given. Let's see if these guys have true, false, not given. I'm going to go to the next one. No, this is not true, false. This is just multiple choice again. As you proceed further, it just goes longer and longer. And for each section, you can see that difference between listening and reading is that you get a cumulative amount of minutes in the reading. There are some sections in listening where you do get a cumulative amount to answer all the questions, but in the initial part, you get just few seconds to answer a single question. And as you move on to the later parts of the questionnaire, then you get a cumulative time, and you have set of questions that you need to answer. But in listening, they are not as big as on reading. Listening, they usually be around 6 to 10 questions in a go. Then if you go next, yeah, that's it, I think. And so there's no true false here, unlike IELTS. And in IELTS you have fill in the blanks, but in CELPIP you don't. And apart from that, yep, that's pretty much it about reading. And let's come back to writing. So one of the reasons many people choose CELPIP is because you tend to score higher on the CELPIP when compared to IELTS in writing, okay? And I'm sure you'll agree that most people struggle with writing on IELTS. You don't get your desired score. Your score is usually between 6, 6.5. And in order for you to achieve the golden score, which is 8,777, then you need to have 7 in writing, and many people don't get it. By the way, I got 10 in writing in CELPIP. So I was really happy with that. So I didn't expect I'm going to get 10. So the rating system, so which reminds me of the rating system. So the rating system of IELTS is you score within 9. So you score out of 9. And then in CELPIP, you score out of 12. Okay, so if you have to get band 7 in CELPIP, you need to score at least 8 out of 12. However, in IELTS, if you want to score band 7, you just need to score 7, basically. 7 or 6, I think. Yeah, you can check it out. All right, so let's see how the writing looks like. So I'm going to go to writing. So in IELTS, the writing task, the first one is a letter, okay, of 150 words. And if we take a look here for writing, this is an email. Again, this is a letter, so they are pretty similar. And only difference is that this is between 150 to 200 words, which is again the same, I would say, because they're saying that IELTS is saying, give me 150 words at least. you can give it more, and the same is with CELPIP as well. The next one is basically giving you a choice, and you're supposed to select between the two choices, and then you have to explain the reason for that choice. Okay, so again, it's pretty similar. The difference is that you only have to write about 150 to 200 words in CELPIP when compared to the IELTS, where you have to write 250 words. So it's pretty long actually, right? So that's that. So you get 25 minutes here. Sorry. All right. So that's that. Again, they're promoting their tests. Okay, so that's your writing. Now let's go to speaking. Okay, speaking is going to be a bit interesting. Okay. Now, with speaking, if you take a look at IELTS, so IELTS speaking duration would be around 10 to 11 minutes, while with CELPIP, the duration would be somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes, right? Now with IELTS, many people are not comfortable facing a human, like sitting in front of the examiner and giving the exam, talking to the person by looking into their eye. They're not comfortable with that. If that is your challenge, CELPIP will be better in this case, because you just have to speak into the computer. There won't be anyone sitting in front of you. In fact, with IELTS, at many places you have to do IELTS in multiple sittings. For example, for speaking, you have to go on a different day. Not necessarily. I have given exams where it was all done in the same day, but at many places they are conducted on a different day. So the benefit of CELPIP would be that you just need to give it in a single sitting, right? So it's around close to quarter to 3 or 3 hours, not more than 3 hours for sure. In one sitting, you give all of your 4 exams, and that's it. And because it's computer based, just like IELTS, you get your scores faster. So if you give IELTS computer based or CELPIP computer based, you're going to get the result just in 4 to 5 days, business days. However, if you give IELTS pen and paper based, then it's going to be a wait of around 12 to 15 days, right? With CELPIP, pen and paper based is not an option anyways. But one thing more important is that with IELTS, some centers do allow you to write on a rough sheet. Like if you're listening to a conversation, although you don't get much time to copy your notes or look at your notes after you write it, but you can write it. You do get a rough sheet. But with CELPIP, they encourage you to take more sheets and make sure to write, because you don't have an option to read the questions while the conversation is being played. So that is why it is better that you make notes. Everyone has a different strategy altogether. So if you are someone comfortable making notes, you can, but a lot of times many people struggle with listening and writing at the same time. They tend to miss the conversation by writing. And I'll come back to that in a moment. I don't want to divert too much from the topic of speaking. So I'll come back to that part of note making in some time. Okay. So coming back to the speaking part. So usually initial questions are going to be for just to get yourself warmed up. Same with IELTS also. I think there's one question initially that they ask that is for warming up. So if you click on speaking, you'll be able to see that they give you some instructions, and then they give you some preparation time here. So unlike IELTS, where you don't have much time, in fact, they won't say anything if you don't speak, but it is expected that you are fluent. Here, they give you time. So you're supposed to read the question and you're supposed to prepare at the same time. What I didn't like about it, that in some of the sections, this time is not really enough. And I thought, why would that be? I mean, this is a very small question, which is okay. But sometimes...
Start speaking now.
Yeah. Sometimes if the question is really long, to understand, to make notes what I'm going to speak about can be difficult, right? So the justification I have read about is that they want you to be fluent. If you are taking too much time in thinking, then you're not really speaking naturally, right? They want the ideas to come naturally. So that is why they don't give you too much time. Okay. So this is a practice test, just like IELTS. Initially, they ask you about your name and where you live and stuff like that. Similarly, you have this here. And the next question is, so these are going to be more generic questions like given advice. So you can see that the speaking task 1 is about advice. They give you a preparation time, and then you are supposed to speak for 90 seconds. Unlike IELTS, where you can stop anytime you want, here, even though you can, but it is not recommended that you stop, because if you stop, then it's going to affect your score, right? So you're supposed to
Start
finish.
speaking now.
You're supposed to finish your recording within 90 seconds. Okay. So each section has different time that you need to speak for. Some sections you're supposed to speak for 60 seconds, while others you're supposed to speak for 90 seconds. Okay, now let's compare it with the IELTS. So IELTS, there'll be more generic questions as well, like TV program show, favorite show, all of these questions. They'll usually have a fallback, why not. Here you will have all the information about the question at the start itself. So if it's asking you to do 2 things, then it's going to tell you all at once, unlike IELTS where they ask you a question and then they counter question based on your answer, which is usually a why or why not. Okay. Then apart from that, questions here are usually in terms of giving advice to someone, talking about personal experience, convincing someone. So questions like these, right? So they give you a preparation time, then you're supposed to speak it for 60 seconds. You do have pen and paper with you, so but I don't think you really get time. I didn't get much time, to write. I did get time when I had 90 seconds, and
Start speaking now.
I did get time when I had 60 seconds for preparation. So at that point, I made sure I wrote down all the notes. As you can see, the question is really long, and you have 30 seconds, right? So in 30 seconds, you're supposed to read, plan, and then speak after those 30 seconds. So it's ideally very difficult to read, comprehend, and at the same time plan what you're going to speak in that 30 seconds. So usually that 30 seconds goes in reading and understanding what what the question is talking about. But you have to make sure that you've understood the question correctly, because when the question is really long, sometimes you tend to miss important information from the question, and if you don't cover that in the answer, then you're going to lose marks on the task completion. All right, so coming back, so again, part 2, you get 2 minutes to speak, and I don't think that there is any section where you're supposed to speak for 2 minutes. I think the maximum it is 90 seconds, which is 1.5 minutes. Okay. So talking about personal experience, then this is something interesting, which is not there in IELTS, which is describing a picture. So here, they just ask you about basic topics about choosing work-life balance related questions. But in CELPIP, they're going to give you a picture. You're supposed to look at the picture and describe the picture. Okay. So that's a skill you need to develop if you haven't done that in the past. Then in the next picture, what they're going to ask you what would happen next. So let's say, for example, in the previous picture, you said that the boy is writing on the board. In the next question, you can say that he has finished writing and he's gone back on his seat, and the teacher is now explaining the problem, or correcting the problem, or checking the problem. So you have to predict the future, like what's going to happen next. Or maybe like if this girl is
Start speaking now.
if this girl is teasing one of the guys, then the other guy has complained the teacher, something like that. You can be creative. Okay, so at this point, they are not only testing your English level, but they're also checking your task completion, to make sure that they want to see how much of the picture you've covered in that short span of time. So how precise you were and how precisely you were able to do more. So you don't have to describe the entire stuff, but you have to make sure that you cover as much as possible. Okay, so that's that. And then, like I said, you have to compare and persuade, convince. So you have to choose an option between the two. So for example, your family has decided on, like, your family likes this house when they go to purchase this one, but you like this one. You have to convince them why you would want them to go for this house rather than the left one. So that's the convincing part you need to do. So like I said, CELPIP focuses more on how you'll be able to communicate with the community or in the family when you go to Canada. That is the basic idea, while IELTS is more of generic conversation and conversation skills. Okay, so that's why you would see that the language here is more simpler compared to IELTS. Okay, so that's that. So again, you can check this out, and again, after this, you're going to have describing an unusual situation. Just going back. So this will be like, you've seen a furniture at store, you have to call your friend, and then you have to explain and describe this furniture and probably ask him to come down and see it or something like that. So again, this will be describing a picture as detailed as possible and then convincing someone. All right. So that's pretty much it for all the 4 tests. Now comes down to note taking. So
Start speaking now.
yeah, so for note taking, I would say that many people are good at this strategy of note taking, and you need to develop that skill. It is not something that you're going to gain overnight. So you have to really practice. While some people are also better at just listening and remembering. So if you are someone who are able to listen to a conversation and recall from what happened, that can work out for you as well, which means that you listen to the conversation, but at the same time try to imagine what is happening around. So for example, a bus driver is talking to a lady, and the lady is walking down the park, and then you see she sees a helicopter. So try to imagine everything that's happening around you, because when you imagine, when you give picture to your mind rather than just listening to words, the mind is able to recall things better. So that's a kind of strategy, that's a tip that I can give you that can work for many people. So if you really want to choose which one to go for, I recommend you give the CELPIP sample test and see how much you're scoring. If you're scoring well according to your needs, then go ahead and give CELPIP. Otherwise, you can go for IELTS as well. So it really depends on what your skills are and how you're going to do it. Right. So that's that. Hopefully I haven't missed on to anything. Even if I did, and if you still have any questions, you can ask in the comment box. I hope you did enjoy this. And if you did like it, please give a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.